What's going on? Coach Colin here, coolest high performance coach in the world. And if you want the absolute best insights to the podcasts and videos you love, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into this. We're talking about Trump today. Now, I'm not like everybody else. I'm not getting wrapped up in the arrest story. I'm not getting wrapped up in if he did it or if he didn't do it. That's like somebody having an argument with you and they bring up like a subtopic and now they want you to argue about that. It's like, no. Let's stay on the main thing. Why? Not if he did it. Why is he being arrested? So I think I have a little bit of a timeline of just things that have been happening with Trump. Nothing too intricate. Just a timeline of his social media activity, what he's been up to there, and what I think is really spurring this whole arrest thing, which is supposed to happen in less than 24 hours, apparently. So it's going to be wild. This has never happened to a former president ever. Never being investigated, arrested, treated like this. So let's get into it. Let's switch over here first. Real quick, I got a video here. I think this will bring a lot of people up to speed in terms of what's happening. It's just a minute and 40 seconds. Let's go into it.
Manhattan DA's office has asked for a meeting with law enforcement ahead of a potential Trump indictment. This is coming to Fox News from a source in the courts. The meeting, which was requested yesterday and has not been set yet, is to discuss logistics for sometime next week, which would mean that they are anticipating an indictment next week. The same source who's familiar with the planning said they will go over security preparations in and around the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. Secret Service will take the lead in what they will allow or will not allow. The source cautioned, mentioning, for instance, that the decision to handcuff the president, a former president, or not, they will set the tone and will escort him into the courtroom. There will be coordination between all of us, the source said, but we will defer to the Secret Service. The battle will be between Secret Service and DA Alvin Bragg. They will decide how and when he'll get into the building, and they are not going to leave him. The source believes that the former president will still have to be fingerprinted and processed like every other defendant. So this is a huge development if Alvin Bragg has decided to go ahead with a felony indictment of the former president. This was a charge that the federal officials refused to prosecute on or even really pursue. This was a misdemeanor in New York that Alvin Bragg has decided to elevate to a felony, while at the same time downgrading other felonies to misdemeanors. So we'll be watching this to see how it all unfolds, to get more information as it comes in.
So I'm so glad that I played that, because that's exactly what I read as I was researching this case. The fact that it was a misdemeanor and that so many people passed it up as like not something that they care to look into. It's just, I'm not like, don't get me wrong, I would vote for Trump. Like, I'm just putting that out there. I think he's better. I think he's better than Joe Biden. I do. I think he was better than Hillary Clinton. I do. And I don't know who he'll be up against this time. If it's Joe Biden, Joe Biden will be asleep by then. I'm more into Trump than most people who are running, right? But I just hate him or love him. Like, I really don't think he's supposed to be treated like this, just as a person. I don't think that this case, I think it's really flimsy. I think it's like James O'Keefe level flimsy, like the same type of stuff that they put up against O'Keefe. Except in terms of Trump's case, there was many people, federal people, like this thing just said, that just passed it up and said, this is a misdemeanor. This is nothing to go about. But like now, this person, this Bragg or whatever, not only do they want to pursue this thing that's like a misdemeanor, they're going to try to attach a different flimsy crime to it because they have to. Because if it's just a misdemeanor, all of this is just nonsense. It's pathetic. But if they can attach another crime to it, which I think is what they're trying to do, then it becomes like a heftier type of issue that can lead to, I don't even know. Like, I don't even want to say jail time, but seems like it. But in regards to this tweet here, Elon Musk weighed in. He said, if this happens, Trump will be reelected in a landslide victory. And that is so true. Is my screen in the way there for you? There you go. Bang. And it's so true. It's like, you do this to Trump, and he's got this face that he has on right here. This face you see? Oh, yeah. He's going to be like that all the way to the White House. Because his fan base, not only the people who elected him the first time, but there's been such a rise in black conservative people, black Republicans. There's been such a rise in that. I think it was like a 30% rise, something along those lines. Not only that, it's going to be a lot of people who are like, oh, we see what Joe is now. We understand what Joe Biden is now, and we don't want any part of that. Like, it's going to be wild. And also, I think there's a large percent of people that are going to be able to see, which is the next point I was going to make, is that this arrest is happening more politically than it is legally. Like, obviously it's all legal, but I think it's really politically induced. And I don't think it's just because it's Donald Trump. I think it's because of what's been going on. I mean, back to that timeline I was talking about. Elon Musk reinstates his Twitter after 22 months of being suspended, right? Then Facebook, Instagram, they end up reinstating him as well. He puts out his infamous coming back Facebook post just recently. I think it was like 2 days ago, I want to say, where he says, I can't even find the post, but he says, I'm back, complicated business. Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business, guys. So he makes that tweet. And then it's like literally like around that time, not that tweet, that Facebook post, but literally around that time, all of a sudden it was like arrest time comes into play, because like now he's back on social media. And a lot of people don't see it that way. A lot of people will think like, no, it's because it's Donald Trump and, Orange Man bad. But I really do think it's because he was about to make a huge resurgence on social media, even if it was just Facebook. Him just going hard on Facebook videos, a huge percent of how he raised money the first time around was through Facebook. It was a huge percentage of his money came from that. Obviously, he's a billionaire, he could do all that, but he fundraised a lot of money through Facebook. And now when he makes that first post, it's like priming the people who want to support him. They're like, all right, he's back. We're ready. Let's go. I really do think, and then that's his son. I really do think that was a main proponent for them to take this legal action. Now, just some tweets here from the left and the right. I'll even go back to his son. Let's not disqualify his son. Donald Trump Jr., he says, remember this? Well, now more than ever, it's being proven right. If they can take him out, they're one step closer to taking you and your freedoms out. And apparently, that's been the plan all along. Well, I can't argue with that. That kind of has been the plan all along. I don't know if they're doing it through Trump, but they've been doing it through every avenue they possibly can. And then it's just a very ominous picture here, right? And then we go over to the left. So that was the right. Now this is someone who's on the left. They're just talking about, breaking news after Trump tells his base to protest and take America back, tells Republicans to go scorched earth. It's like they can only survive by inciting violence. Haven't these morons, very, very eloquently said of him, learned a lesson yet from January 6th? So ridiculous. I'll show both sides, but just ridiculous. I can't hide my opinion of this. Dear Republicans, please just let the court system sort this stuff out. You don't have to like it, but violence isn't the answer. Now, it's true violence isn't the answer, but here's what's not true. Actually, you know what? I will say it's like you should let the courts figure it out, but at the same time, like I just referenced before, this is not on the up and up. This is not happening because somebody's really concerned about him giving Michael Cohen money to hush Stormy Daniels before an election. Ooh, shouldn't have done that. It's like, why didn't you prosecute him 8 months ago? Why didn't you prosecute him 20 months ago? Like, what? This is not, it's not, it, honestly, this is nonsense. I'm trying to be in the middle here, but this is nonsense. And then, I don't think that story's worth saying. Then somebody on the right here, it was Donald Trump who broadcasted to the world the FBI raided his home to retrieve top secret documents. And it's Donald Trump who has broadcasted to the world that he will soon be arrested. His goal is acts of violence in his name and must be prepared to protect against it. Never mind. That's not really the right. This gentleman's more to the left. My bad. And again, it's like you see the left go into this, and you see it all the time. I say it all the time. Leftist government says this is what's happening. Then all of a sudden the lower politicians start talking about it. Then you see the celebrities start talking about it. It happens just like that every single time. And they just go into this smear campaign mode and they all start saying the same thing. It's actually it's a textbook propaganda tool to just keep saying the same thing. Even if it's not true, just keep saying it, keep saying it, keep saying it. And then it becomes true because a lot of the population just takes it on because they're kind of just programmed to. That's what I'll say there. And then Big Benny Johnson, let's go. Gentleman from the right for sure. Is it any surprise that the driving force behind Trump's indictment witch hunt is a district attorney in New York backed by none other than George Soros? Now, I couldn't actually find that information to see if he was actually backed by George Soros, but if Benny's saying it, Benny looked into it at least a little bit. Benny's swinging for the fences for Trump because that's how Benny Johnson is, but he's not somebody to just make things up. That's for sure. Benny Johnson came up with James O'Keefe. They actually started in the business of truth-telling, of journalism at the exact same time. They both came up under Andrew Breitbart. Just so you know, just so you understand what kind of elk this gentleman comes from. Let's go here. This is a huge development. Final preparations being made to arrest Trump next week. Trump will be fingerprinted and processed like any other defendant. That's what they say in this video. Secret Service will make the decision, blah, blah, blah. Handcuff him. A misdemeanor. The guy's like 78 years old. Handcuff him in case he makes a break for it. Donald Trump, he's going to grab a gun from one guy. He's going to shoot another officer. Yeah, let me tell you. And then lastly here, Libs fail. I think this is a right-leaning platform here. But at the same time, I think what they're saying makes perfect sense. Constitutional law professor Jonathan Turley blasts NYDA over possible Trump indictment as legally pathetic. And I really do side with that. I really do think this is legally pathetic. I think this is nonsense. I think this is not gonna hold water the way they think it is. And lastly, I'd like to show you a message from Mr. Trump himself. This is what he's been saying on Truth Social. Honestly, I might just go and get Truth Social. And here it is. There was no misdemeanor here. There was no crime, period. All of the other many Democrat law enforcement officers that looked at it took a pass. And that is true. That is actually true. Like more than 5 people who saw this, who are legally trained, who are, like they're on the up and up, said this is nothing. So did Cy Vance and so did Bragg. But then, much later, changed his mind. Gee, wonder why. Prosecutional misconduct and interference with an election. Investigate the investigators. Honestly, that's such a true statement. Investigate the investigators. It's so true. Like, why did this is this gentleman involved with George Soros? Right? Is he doing this because he's trying to protect Joe Biden from completely losing the election, which he's going to, no matter what, he's going to lose. Like, why is this gentleman now deciding to do this after he passed this up and saw it as nothing? Like, these people who are investigating should have to answer those type of questions. they should have to answer somewhat, and not answer to Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is the person in question. They shouldn't have to answer to him. You know where I stand. They should have to answer to us. Thing is, though, especially when the left goes on these type of smear campaigns, we don't even know about the questions that we should be asking, let alone know that, this investigator should be giving us answers. We just look at this from afar like, oh, this is just a thing that's happening. This is really within our control. And I don't mean within our control the way Trump's calling for with protests and violence and stuff. Well, he's not calling for violence. He's calling for protests. I don't think it needs to be that way. Why can't we all just write into this person? Why can't we all just start tweeting at this person? Why can't we all just hold this person accountable when we see them in person and ask them what they're doing and why they're doing it? Why hasn't that been done? Like, Matt Taibbi does something on the Twitter files and he gets put in front of a bunch of people. Why doesn't this person have to be put in front of a bunch of people and answer to why he feels this needs to be legally pursued in the way it does? You're fingerprinting a former U.S. president. You should have to answer some questions on why you're doing this. But when we look at the government and we look at who's in charge, it's all very left-leaning people. It's all Democrats. They don't want to question him. They just want to look. They're probably throwing parties for this guy. They probably got shrines at their houses for this guy. They're like, thank God, the Messiah's here, arresting Trump. But other than that, I just wanted to go into that whole situation. It's 24 hours, less than 24 hours away. What do you think should happen to Trump? Do you think Trump should actually get arrested and possibly thrown in jail? Do you think that's how we should be treating former presidents of the United States? What happens if it's Barack next, if it's George Bush next? And I know a lot of people would like to see those two in some kind of situation like that. But what happens when we start treating presidents this way? Is it really bad for the country, or is it just like any other, criminal, quote unquote? I really don't know. I would say, honestly, by the timeline that I'm seeing in terms of his social media rise and what he could do and how he can impact the election via social media, I don't think this is on the up and up at all. I think they're doing this to silence him in a way. And I think they're also doing it so this person who's running for president is also now a criminal. And I think that's dirty. I think that's so dirty and so underhanded. And like Trump said, we need to investigate the investigators. Seriously. But other than that, I am out. Subscribe if you found value. And if not, still subscribe, because believe me, I'm only going to improve over time. I'm out.